Well, welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Perry Williams, and alongside me today is Guerin Catholic coach Pete Smith. Welcome, Pete.
Hey, thanks, Perry. Great to be here again.
Thank you. Great to have you. Well, basketball started again. We're out rolling, and girls basketball has been going a little longer, so we've done several broadcasts, and now we're into the boys' schedule. But right now, you're setting 2 and 3 overall, correct?
We are going into the Lawrence North and Lafayette Jeff weekend, so big weekend ahead for us.
Yeah, 2 big games. Of course, Lawrence North always very, very talented. Jack Kiefer's been around for a little while, and he's had some good basketball players there. Yeah. And looks like the team he has this year's got a lot of talent too.
They are very talented, and only really one senior in the mix, Rye Capetti. They're 6'9" centers, so going to be a big challenge. We've played some pretty good teams up to date so far that hopefully have got us prepared, but their size is Roncalli had similar size. But when you have 6'9", you have Kenny Easley at 6'7", as a forward, has already been offered IU a scholarship. And then they have supposedly, when I say that, one of the top-rated freshmen in the state, one of the top-rated sophomores in the state. I'm referring to Mike Saunders as the freshman. And the kid from Terre Haute that moved in last year, another move-in. They've got a really talented lineup. And then Cushenberry, their guards, always hurt us. He had 19 as a freshman against us in one of the games. But they're one of our rivals. We played them a lot in the last few years, twice in 1 year, just several years back when we played them in the regular season, then we played them in the holiday tournament in Noblesville a few years ago. So we're very familiar with the Wildcats. It's always a big challenge for us. We don't have quite the athleticism, but we played them pretty tough some years, so we beat them some years. I still talk to my 2012 guys, and they say, that Lawrence North win that night at Lawrence North kind of made us really believe that all that stuff you were telling us about how good we could be, we could be, after beating the Lawrence North that night with Aaron Harris and those guys.
Yeah, and then the next night you play Lafayette Jeff. So
I always look forward to playing Coach Radiker. He started with me as my assistant, and he's got a nice team, very athletic. Lost a couple, whereas last year when we played him, they were coming in rated maybe 9th or 10th in the state, and they were undefeated, and we played pretty well and beat them last year. But got to go over there, and it's not an easy place to play. Yeah. Not because necessarily, Perry, because they have so many fans. It's such a big place, and it's empty. Yeah. And it's kind of a weird feeling. I mean, if they don't draw, on Friday nights they have decent crowds. Saturday nights they usually don't. So it's just a weird environment to play in.
Coach, we notice that when we do ball games here in Hamilton County, Friday night attendance at ball games are very, very good. Saturday, it doesn't really matter who you play. Saturday night games are not good attendance.
I think that's very true. I'll tell you, 2 weeks ago when you guys covered our Hamilton Heights game, though, I thought they had a nice crowd.
Yeah, they really
for
did.
Saturday night. It was their home opener.
Yeah.
But kudos to the Heights fans. They were very enthusiastic. They got very fired up to play us. They had a nice crowd that night. I don't think we travel very well on Saturdays. I think if that's a Friday night game, we bring a lot more kids. Sure. We had a game the night before against Roncalli, which was a conference game, but we still brought a decent little crowd.
You really did.
For our size school,
I thought it was a real good crowd, and you and I have been around Hamilton County for a long time, and it's always amazed me the fan following at Hamilton Heights. I mean, it's always been that way, and in most sports, it's the same way. Yeah. And of course, you went and talked to one over there. I mean, gosh, Glenn Schrock's been sitting on that front row at Hamilton Heights forever.
Yeah, he has, and they go to everything. They go to girls' games, football games. They have a nice little crew that does that for every sport, and Glenn and Sherry do that a lot.
Yeah.
Mike Thomas has been around a long time. Yeah. Some of those guys just do
that's a great group.
Really good job.
Yeah.
We played at Muncie Central last Saturday at the Muncie Fieldhouse, and because they closed off the one end because of some structural issues, it seemed like they had a better crowd than we'd been the last few years over there. So, again, I think you're right generally, but ironically, the Heights game had a really nice crowd on a Saturday night.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned Lafayette Jeff, and, back in our day, you just can't picture it today of not sellout crowds at Muncie Central, at Lafayette Jeff, at Richmond, at Kokomo. It's just unbelievable. It's
changing of the times, more sports, more things on television to stay home and watch. Here's a good one. 2 weeks ago when we got home from Heights that night, Yeah, Western Heights. No, it was last Friday. I apologize. We got back from our game at Brebeuf. We stayed at school till 1 o'clock and watched Cameron Lindley play soccer. It was on
that's right.
ESPNU.
Yeah.
And he was playing in the national semifinals, the Final Four, against Providence. And there's just so much on TV now that there's a lot of choices. And also, kids are playing more sports.
Right.
I mean, we were just talking about this, and I'm not trying to get off the subject.
No,
we were just
right,
talking about
good.
this in junior high. We lived for Friday night so we could go watch the varsity team play.
Right.
Playing on the junior high teams in my little hometown and other places. And now, a lot of times they play club games on Friday night. So they have AAU practice, let alone the younger kids.
Yeah.
So they'll go, I'll ask kids, hey, you going to come to our games from Our Lady Mount Carmel or Our Lady of Grace or something? No, we got practice till 7:30. We're not going to get there on a Friday night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the highlight or the pinnacle of weeks like it used to be because there's a lot of things going on and everyone's playing.
Absolutely. And playing
Everyone's
different sports.
So it does, when we think of the crowds that we used to have at those gyms and places, it's just
It's different.
a little sad.
Yeah.
I mean, how about the Center Grove Carmel girls game last Saturday?
Oh, yeah. There wasn't anybody there.
No one there. No one that so much that Fox Sports asked everyone to sit on the one side to make it look like there still wasn't anybody there.
No, sure wasn't.
Too much. Those are two really good girls teams, particularly
Absolutely.
Carmel's girls with Amy Dilk. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Have you ever, what a point guard! Oh
Yeah,
my
she's
gosh.
really a super player.
And now that she's grown 3 or 4 inches over the summer here, and she's got that length and hasn't lost any of her quickness.
No,
she's a real player.
Yeah, she's a really good player. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Guerin Catholic. I know that when we were at Hamilton Heights, and I come down and said to you, sat with you a little bit, and you told me that you had already lost a couple players.
Yeah, losing Cameron Oswald and Clay Hepp, the reason both those guys are key to us is Clay is a true point guard. He's a junior point guard that'll come back after the holidays. And he was going to play some JV anyway. But that was because we had Connor Oswald, who had played some point guard at Westfield, transferred to Guerin last year and missed the season last year, and was ready to play this year. And 2 minutes into his action against Roncalli, he blows his ACL out again for a second time. So that really gives us no depth at the point guard spot. Matthew Godfrey has to play it the majority of the time. Kean Sills can play it some, but he's more accustomed to the 2 guard where he can do more things on a perimeter. The sad thing is you've seen us play the last couple of years. Matthew was our 2 guard the last 2 years. So
you were probably looking really forward to having him at that 2 guard.
Yeah, and I thought Connor Oswald, as he learned our system, because he didn't play it all last year because he was rehabbing from the ACL, as he got more accustomed to it, he could knock Matthew over to the 2 and play some points so we could run some more things to get Matthew some open looks. So it really limits us, and I want to give, I think Heights did a really good job of limiting Matthew's effectiveness because once he did give the ball up, Wall wasn't going to let him have it back. So a really nice job by them. But, losing those 2 kids have really changed our rotations.
Yeah, and the one thing about it, even at Heights game, I mentioned several times because I've been fortunate enough to get to see Matthew Godfrey play several games at Guerin because you've had him since he was a freshman.
He played key minutes as a freshman.
Yeah,
in the state
because you
championship
brought
year 15,
him in spots where, when he gets on a roll hitting threes now, that other team's in big trouble.
And he was 7-12 from 3 at Muncie Central last Saturday night. They lost him a few times. They also did a good job of running and jumping us, and so Jack Hansen is very versatile. He's not a point guard, but against the kids that were guarding him against Muncie, he's very serviceable bringing the ball up the floor. So that got Matthew some pretty good looks, and he knocked down 7 threes last Saturday night. So that's another good night. That ties his record. And ironically, we're going into the Lawrence North game, and he had 25 points last year against Lawrence North. He had 7 threes at LN last year. So,
and he's shooting pretty good at the 2-point line too, because he, inside 46%. I think
he just doesn't get too many 2-point shots because he's legitimately 5'11", like we list him, and he just has trouble shooting over people. But outside, his range is really, really good.
Yeah. Now, Jack Hansen, he played great up at Heights, and I see with the stats here, he's averaging a double for a season through the first 5 games.
He is right now.
He plays very well. He's going to be
he's going to be a good player. You know, he got to play big minutes last year. Basically, he and Matthew were the only 2 kids that had quality minutes last year. Joey Weiss was a third that had played some varsity last year, but we had 5 seniors, and Jack's because he's still feeling himself out from the standpoint of where he should be a lot during the game. You know, we'd like to keep him inside, but he's a good 3-point shooter. And it's just trying to figure out where he's best for us sometimes more than where he's more comfortable. So it's been a challenge trying to figure out where he's going to help us. And of late, with the way the guards have brought the ball up, Jack's been doing that more often. You know, we've got Cameron Dixon inside, our 6'6" senior center. You know, he missed most of last season due to a knee injury. He did play a little bit on the JV, but there's just some teams where he really has trouble matching up defensively. So, you know, we're kind of like in a situation where there's some games we know going in, you know, unless he's really moving, we're going to have trouble with him defensively guarding some of the people we play. This week, we're looking forward to him guarding Ry Capetti. You know, he's 6'9", big, strong athlete, and Cam's a 6'6" physical athlete. So, but, you know, again, first varsity games this season for him, basically for Kean Sills, for Luke Godfrey, who hit the 2 big free throws in the Muncie win. I mentioned Joey Weiss, got to start that night against Heights for Zach Munson. Zach's a kid who's grown 3 inches from last year. So, I mean, he's still growing into his body, and he's only a junior. So he's 6'6" now, and they wouldn't surprise me if he's 6'8" next year.
Yeah, because wasn't his brother Christian? Didn't he? He blossomed late too. Didn't he?
Yeah. He grew several inches, and he's 6'6" now in college.
Yeah. But I mean, he came.
They're both late growers.
Yeah.
So you know, something. It's funny. We had Bill Fenlon and John Miller in practice Monday. John's the head coach at Hanover, and Bill's the coach at DePaul. And both of them said, you know, Zach Munson's going to be really good when he's 20 or 21 because he's finally going to grow into that body and then start to really figure out how to use his body.
Yeah.
So, but Zach is a really hard worker. It's just sometimes what he wants to do and what he can do because of the way he's grown so much. I mean, you know, he's 5'11" as a freshman. You know, 6'3" last year. That's 6'6" now as a junior.
That's big.
And he's not really. The thing is, he's not really a post player. I mean, he's playing post because he's tall. We need him around the basket because he's a good rebounder when he blocks out. But, you know, in college, he's going to be a perimeter player because he can shoot it like his brother. Yeah. Not quite as consistent yet, but he can shoot it really well.
Yeah. So and like you said, but with him, with that growth spurt and everything, he's just got to adjust his body to what he's doing.
So right now we're in a 7-man rotation. Friday night we'll start Cam Dixon in the post. We'll start Zach Munson and Jack Hansen at the 2 forwards, and then we'll start Matthew and Kean at the guards, Kean Sills. And then coming off the bench will be Luke Godfrey, and coming off the bench will be Joey Weiss, one of our 3 captains. The next 2 guys are Will Morris and Andrew Sharp, both seniors, both good role players off the bench. Andrew Sharp has never been healthy since his sophomore year, unfortunately. He's had some health issues, he's had some foot issues, and this week has been a knee issue where it's hurting him. So he's never really got himself to put himself in position to get in the rotation, sadly, because he's just a wonderful kid, good little basketball player, but someone, again, who's grown early, and now he's kind of peaked out right at 6 feet, whereas he was 6 feet in junior high and he was a post player. So that's why, you know, those watching, you should always train yourself to be a basketball player, not a post player or not a guard, because you never know if you're going to grow anymore. And Will Morris played in the JV last year, and he gave us some good minutes in Muncie. You know, very capable if you need to. He gives us some size at 6'4". Our last varsity player is Drew Thiem, and Drew is playing most of his time on the JV because next year he's got a great chance of starting as a senior. And I could sit him on the bench as a junior, and it wouldn't do him any good. He didn't play a lot as a sophomore because he battled some injuries, but he's getting a lot of playing time in the JV, helping Tom Pritchard with his team, and you know, he's still not polished yet. That's the thing I tell him. So it gives him a chance to keep getting better. So that's our 12-man team, minus, like I started out with, Clay Hepp and Connor Oswald, who are both on, you know, Connor's out for the season, and Clay comes back not until after we come back from Vincennes from the holiday tournament.
Yeah, the one thing, and you mentioned Tom Pritchard is now one of your new assistants, and Pete Smith's been pretty known to keep his assistants forever, And
Well, I only kept Brad Stevens 1 year.
oh, okay, well, yeah, he did pretty good. He's done well.
But Tom's been a great addition
Yeah.
to us, and he's getting to learn the kids more. He coached them in summer league. We brought him on in the summer to work our camp, and doing a really nice job. He's got a little bit bigger ambitions, kind of like Brad did.
Yeah.
So we'll see what this season brings. But getting to coach his own team for the first season is a great experience. And now he's working as an intern in our athletic department this year with our changes with our AD and everything too. With Matt Lane becoming our interim, Tom I think is a good piece along with Debbie Stannis there.
Well, that'll help a lot, and of course, you have to give high praise to your coaching staff because they've been with you for a few years now. So and
Seem
very
like
hard,
ages. No.
they're very, very hard workers.
No, obviously Andy Warren played for me at Carmel when I was the coach, and his mom and I have been friends since
Forever, right?
Forever. And bringing him on the staff was a great one. And then able to get Tommy Muscari come back from Culver Academy as the head coach to come back and be an assistant. That we're very,
Two
very blessed.
top-notch coaches there. Been around the game for a long time.
Yeah.
Even though they're still pretty young, right?
They're younger than me.
Yeah.
I don't think they look young, but they're younger than me.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about the schedule because your schedule's a little bit different since you're in a conference now, okay?
Yes, we had to drop 3 teams this year. We had to drop our game against Tech, which we always enjoy going down to Tech. We had to drop our Marion game. We had to drop our Northwest game, which we were going to do anyway. From that standpoint, and because this year, and this is the only year we're going to play all our conference opponents twice.
Yes, I saw that.
Because next year Heritage Christian comes in, and the coaches voted down to do that. So we'll be adding, 3 more teams next year. I've already got one. I think we're going to New Albany and play at New Albany next year, so that'll be fun. But that's not confirmed completely. But our schedule, I think, is very challenging.
Is that a good year to go to New Albany next year?
I think it's a great year to go down. I think it's going to be an unbelievable environment that kids will enjoy playing in, and I think we'll have a team that can compete next year. I think we have a team that can compete this year. We just need to, the Muncie game we had 18 turnovers against 6. I mean, it's hard to beat a team when you give them 12 more possessions, and yet we found a way to win. Now we just have to play better basketball.
Yeah, and the other night when I did the Heights game, I made some comments during the game to Brad Silver, who did the play-by-play. I said, with Pete losing a couple players here in the last week and losing his point guard, I assure you the team we see tonight will not be the same team we'll see
I hope you're
down
right.
the road.
We've got to make some big corrections, but I hope not. I'm optimistic, as you can tell, that we're going to get her going there. We got to really cut down the turnovers, and a lot of it again is because Matthew is learning. Matthew is playing the point, and it just doesn't give us as many options as we've had in the past.
Sure.
But we'll see. But schedule-wise, we're in a tough stretch right now. We have one more game. We've mentioned, Lawrence North and Lafayette Jeff. Then we go to Chittard a week from Friday on the 23rd of December. And then we'll take a few days off. Then we hit it right again, go back to Vincennes, the holiday tournament. And then the month of January and February, we've got some really good opponents on the schedule. So, when you're playing in the 4A class, you've got to play up. And we always felt like we played up anyways at 3A. We haven't changed too many games anyway, but all that being said, it's a good schedule. We bit off a lot. We're not really concerned about wins in regular season as long as we're getting better.
It's kind of interesting too the way the schedule works out this year. That you have Chittard on the 23rd, and then you come back and play them on January 6th. So that's kind of an interesting
and then
situation.
for instance, we played Brebeuf last week, and we don't play them again until the end of January.
Yeah.
So some of the space, and Roncalli the same way. It's just where we could place them in this year.
Absolutely,
the next year. And we're famous for playing girl-boy doubleheaders with all our parochial schools.
Yeah.
With Central Catholic, we'll start with Roncalli next year, girl-boy. We play Bishop Chittard, girl-boy. We play Brebeuf, girl-boy. So next year, going back to just playing one game with them, we'll continue the girl-boy thing. The second time we play each of those schools, we play them in a girl-boy doubleheader. So the JVs will play in the middle of the week. So they get a prime time game that, girls will play at 6, and the boys will play at 7:30 on the JVs.
Yeah. So the really in looking at your schedule here at after the first of the year, you're playing a lot of conference games again, and then you got Cecina in there, and
Cecina beat Roncalli last night. Oh.
I know.
And
you got Heritage Christian, but you got a little small school called LaPel that with Jimmy Howell over
We've
there.
got a great
That's
rivalry.
quite a program over there.
We've
He's
got a great
rolling.
little rivalry going with them. Last year, great crowd at their place, and was on television in the state, and we were able to beat them in overtime. Was that game overtime? Can't remember if that was overtime. Well, no, we beat them. Can't remember if that one was overtime in Franklin Central, but we've had a great relationship with LaPel.
And that's another one of those
Yeah.
schools that draws well. I mean, and travels well.
They do travel well, and we've had just some incredible games with them. So
and they'll be rocking over there with their success. Of
yeah,
last
we got them
year.
at home this year.
Yeah.
So, but last year was a great game. Like I said, they were number one when we played them. So we've got some good ones coming up.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it. One thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was the success factor rule. Okay, you won the state a couple of years ago, so you were moved up from 4A to 3A.
And some people, if I can explain, some people don't quite understand.
Yeah, that's.
But the IHSA, when they implemented that 4 years ago, was in a 2-year cycle. You have to accumulate, if you don't have to, because it's hard to. But if you accumulate 6 or more points, then for the next 2-year cycle, you have to play up a class. And in 2014, we got beat by Greensburg in the semi-state, so we get a point for the sectional, a point for the regional. There's 2. The next year, we were able to win the state, so sectional, regional, semi-state, state. There's 4. Total of, for sign language people, 6.
Yeah.
So with 6 points, we played in the 4A last year, and we'll be in the 4A again this year. As I've tried to explain when I've spoke to people or clinics, we didn't get beat last year in the sectional because we have 738 students and Fishers has 3,000. We didn't play very well. I'm not sure we would have beat anybody that night in 3A that was a good team. We didn't play very well, and Fishers played a great game. We had won 8 games going into that section. We'd beaten Franklin Central, beaten Pendleton, LaPel, like you referred to. We were playing well. We didn't get beat because we were a small school. We didn't play very well that night. This year, we're back in the 3A again. This year it's at Carmel instead of Noblesville. We've got to play well, no matter what. Go ahead and ask your question.
Well, is
it fair?
Yeah, that, and also I will have to say for the Indiana High School Athletic Association, at least they realize that they look at it every 2 years.
Definitely.
And that's coming up here in April. Okay.
Right.
And whether they tweak rules or not, or leave it the same. Now you will, if
unless we win the state championship this year, we will go back to 3A unless we opt to stay up. I know our administration and I talked last year, and they were not in favor of us staying up. We're a school of 738 kids right now. It will never be over 800 because we're capped at 200 a class. So at that same time, there's a lot of people that want to do this multiplier rule, as you may have heard over the past years, where parochial schools multiply their enrollment by 1.5, and then it determines what class you're in. It would still keep us in 3A.
Yeah.
For some of them, it may put them up a class, particularly in football. But I think Commissioner Cox and the IHSA went to this. I know they did, because less complaints have been voiced now that he's implemented the success factor. And in some ways, my ego says I'd love to stay up in 4A. I also know, and I'm not trying to give you a bleeding heart story, I know our students have 3 hours of homework typically a night. We have one small little gym that we have to practice in the mornings, or like today, as we're airing this on the 14th of December, we have to practice at my buddy's called the Jungle in Westfield, which is a warehouse that he bought a basketball for, because we don't have the facilities. What we have is very nice, but nothing like the teams we play.
Right.
So I think that factor of them saying, well, it's a parochial school, you get great athletes. I mean, we don't get to recruit. Not saying anybody should, but we have 4 Cali junior highs that all feed in. We get those kids, that's it, just like Noblesville gets their 2 middle schools and Carmel gets their 3 middle schools. We have 4 little Cali junior highs feed in. Roncalli, same way. Chautard, same way. Cathedral and Brebeuf, not. They don't have any feeder schools, so they do have to go out and technically recruit. Someone would say, well, I see outside of your school that says open house. Public schools have open houses. Right. They're recruiting kids too because it's tax dollars. They want kids to come in from LaPel schools into Noblesville because we have more offerings. So there's not much difference anymore than it used to be, other than the fact that we don't do any of that because we don't get tax dollars. We have to get it through the tuition that the kids and families pay. So that long soapbox I just gave you, my ego says we should try to stay in 4A because we're playing a 3 to 4A schedule already, but our administration feels like what's best for our school, play where we belong with our enrollment. And again, if we did do a multiplier, we would still be in 3A. As you mentioned, what are we on?
Well, you're 48th out of 97 teams in 3A.
In 3A, enrollment-wise. So
Yeah.
you add a multiplier, we're still going to be
Yeah.
a 3A school.
Right, right,
So.
right. Well, I wanted to ask that question because I wanted you to explain it. It wasn't pro or con either side, but I think it's an important comment to, to get out there and let people know.
And I appreciate why the IHSA does it. And some
Yeah.
schools have opted to stay up in other sports.
Right.
Our girls' soccer team has stayed up and played in 2A. Coach McClure's philosophy has always been that, and they've been close, but they've never won it. But they've also never won it in the class they should have been in.
Right.
So that's,
So,
we have twice. So we're trying the 4A, and we're going to try our darnest to win it. We got a long way to go to improve, but it's not because I don't think we have 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 kids. It's because we didn't play very good last year. So we got to get better. The other team played a lot better.
Well, all right, Coach. I appreciate you. Appreciate you taking time out of your
always
busy
enjoy
day
it.
and come
Yeah.
in here and talk to us a little bit. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks,
Well, I'll
Greg.
see you, I guess, tomorrow. I have a couple of coaches' corners to do, so we got a couple more coming up. So see you later.